Hey friends, so by now you know we are homeowners. So I wanted to make a video just really talking a little bit about our experience with the home buying process. I thought this might be helpful if any of you out there are in the process of looking for a home to buy, maybe thinking about starting to buy a home, things like that. I don't necessarily have any tips, but maybe you just want to know about my experience. So that is what I'm here to talk about. I don't know if this is going to be a super short video or a little bit longer video. I didn't necessarily plan out anything to say, so that's always what you get with me. If you hear the noise in the background, that is the air conditioner. It's about 90 degrees here today, so it's necessary. So sorry about that if it's annoying. Okay, so let's get into it. So the first thing I want to say is I am in Pennsylvania, so I don't know if things are different in other states, other parts of the country, anything like that. So this is, again, just my experience. And we worked with a realtor that was a family friend. So we definitely trusted him, trusted his judgment and all of the things. So I think that's probably important to get a realtor that you trust, that is knowledgeable, things like that. We knew that we can count on his advice and things like that. This was brand new to us. This is our first ever home purchase. He, has experience, obviously, as a realtor. He also has purchased several homes himself. So I do think it's important to try to find a realtor that you can, trust, who can give you the guidance, answer your questions the right way, things like that, just to help you along the way, because that was super important to us. So those are my kind of like disclaimers. So let's talk about it. So we looked seriously, we're looking for homes since probably about December of 2023 or January 2024. It is now July of 2024. So we did look for a while. Currently there is not a lot of inventory available. The prices are really high for like really outdated and not in great shape homes. That's just like the state of the market right now. Interest rates are high. Even, a couple months ago, we had put in an offer on the house on a different house, and the interest rate was a little bit lower even just, a couple months ago. So interest rates can definitely raise rapidly. Hopefully they will go down at some point, but they are pretty high right now. So, like I said, we had been looking for a while. We did kind of experience, a few different things while house shopping. So firstly, we finally found a house, I believe back in February or January. I guess not finally, I guess at that point we hadn't been looking too long, but we put in an offer on it. So that house was listed, I want to say, at $250. We offered $215 because the house was dated and you could tell it needed some work and things like that. The sellers quickly accepted that, and they accepted it with an as-is condition, meaning if anything came up on the inspection report, they weren't fixing it. They weren't paying, to fix it. They weren't going to knock any money off, things like that. And so we said, okay, because at that point we didn't think that there would really be anything too major on the inspection. So we went through with putting an offer in, again, it was accepted, started the process. We got an inspection. So with that, at least again in Pennsylvania, you need to find an inspector to go out to the home and inspect it. So we had that done, and then we received the report back, and at that time, the things that came up on the report, we decided we did not want to go through with the purchase of the house. So the house needed new siding. There were a couple of small water leaks. I forget what else at this point, but we, almost bought the house back then. And we decided not to go through with it. So that was one experience we had. So just know if something doesn't feel right, if your gut's telling you to back out, you know, it is okay. You can back out. Now, with that, we were out the money for the inspection. Obviously, an inspection was done, so the inspector needed to be paid, right? So I believe the inspection was, I want to say like $700 or maybe $300. I don't remember. But it, you know, it's a few hundred. So just know, when you put an offer in on a house, in addition to, you know, however much you're going to need for a down payment and closing costs, there are some other costs associated with it, and the inspection is one of them. So that was one experience we had. Another experience we had was, we found a house, again, I don't remember, maybe around March, that we absolutely fell in love with. We knew immediately that we wanted to put an offer in. It was just, we felt like it was the one for us. So with that home, we did put an offer in once again, and unfortunately our offer, you know, was not accepted. Somebody else got the house over us, basically. So that was another experience we had, and I'll tell you what, I was really bummed out over that, but in the end, it just wasn't meant to be. And so, you know, back on the horse, as they say. So fast forward to May, we found this house. We put the offer in May 28th, and the offer was accepted the same day, later that evening. And we just closed on July 10th, 2024. So it was just under 45 days for the entire process. So to me, it's kind of like hurry up and wait. It's like, you know, apply, get all the paperwork, do all the things, and then wait for your offer to be accepted, wait for closing, all the stuff. So that was kind of our timeline. Like I said, just under 45 days. With this house, with the offer, what we did was an escalation clause. And so what that means is, we said we will be the highest offer on this house by $1,000 up to whatever our max is. And I'm sorry for all these notifications. Let me take this off. Okay, so for example, the house I believe was listed at $239. So what we said was, we will beat whatever the highest offer is on the house. Say it's $244. We'll beat that by $1,000, meaning we'll offer $245. Up to our max of $265,000. I believe that was the max we gave. That was what we offered on the previous house, so we felt, you know, we would go up to that if necessary. Luckily, it didn't come to that. We ended up getting the house for $245, but the realtor said the escalation clauses really do work. So, you know, I'm sure your realtor will suggest that as an option to you if you end up finding a house that you love, but just keep that in the back of your mind, the escalation clause. Because that is, you know, one tool that you can use to try to have the sellers, you know, accept your offer. So, let's talk a little bit about the process. So first is pre-approval. So really, at least in this area, most sellers want you to be pre-approved before you even begin looking for a house, meaning you've already chosen a bank, you've already put in an application, and you have a pre-approval letter, you know, showing that you're going to be approved for X amount of dollars or whatever to purchase the home. So we got pre-approved back in like January or whatever, when we put the offer on the first house. And because we were looking for so long, our pre-approval actually expired. We used a small bank. I call it like a mom and pop bank around here, because it's who our realtor suggested. And once again, we trusted him. You know, that's the bank he likes to use. It's the bank he recommends and things like that. And this bank, they were wonderful. The person that I worked with there, I just would text him back and forth. It was very informal. I would text him after hours, on weekends. He would always respond. So he was pretty much available to me 24/7 if I ever had a question, which I really appreciate. And I know that like a big bank, you know, that probably would not be the case. So I enjoyed the process. Again, I thought it was really helpful just to know that I had someone there to answer questions whenever I had them. So we used that small bank. Again, our pre-approval expired because we had been looking for so long. I want to say the approval was good for, I don't even remember, honestly, several months, I guess. But luckily, when the pre-approval expired, we didn't have to really do anything else to get it approved again. We just kind of had to tell the bank, you know, we're interested in another house, but our pre-approval expired, and he did whatever he did on his end. He did have to run our credit again, I believe. So, you know, just keep that in the back of your mind. Those pre-approvals do expire, so I would only suggest getting a pre-approval if you're really serious about finding a home and you know you want to put an offer in, because it will lower your credit. It was a very extensive application process, so we did have to provide lots of documents, W-2s from prior years. We had to provide copies of our licenses, copies of our most recent pay stubs, I believe the last 2 or 3 pay stubs, bank statements, like a lot of information to apply, which does make sense because they want to make sure you can pay your mortgage, right? So we had to provide all of those documents for the initial application. With us, it was like an online process, which I'm sure most banks have. So it was really easy to go in, fill everything out. You could upload the documents right to the website and everything like that. So it was easy, but cumbersome to fill out. And for that reason, I did not shop around in terms of rates. I didn't apply with anyone else. I used the one lender that our realtor recommended. So, you know, you can definitely shop around and apply with other lenders. Once you apply with one, again, it lowers your credit score. It lowered mine probably a good 10 points, maybe more, because it's a more like extensive credit inquiry, I guess, than just if you were applying for a credit card or something like that. But once you do that initial application, I believe you have maybe a week or so to apply with other lenders without hurting your credit score again. And the reason I know that is because I have Credit Karma for my checking and savings account, which is like an online bank, and they are really helpful. They send me a lot of like tips and tricks and things like that. And one of them was that I got a notification when my credit was run that you have X amount of time to apply with other lenders and to, like, you know, price match and things like that without running your credit again. So that's just how I know that. Check out Credit Karma if you're interested in like a new checking account or a new bank or whatever. I really like them. So that's just a side note. So, again, the application was pretty extensive. They want a lot of information. That's fine. So once we applied, we actually got the pre-approval. It was actually like late on a Friday night that we applied. And again, this bank works weekends and whatever. So I believe we got the pre-approval the next morning. And then again, we had the pre-approval. We put in the offer on the first house. We didn't go with that. We put in the offer on the second house. It wasn't accepted, and then it expired. They had to run our credit again for this third house, which they did. And so we put in the offer, like I said, May 28th. The offer was accepted that evening. And so here we are. So throughout the process, after the initial application, here and there were some documents that needed to be signed. Whenever you put in an offer, you need to sign a couple documents. And then once our offer was accepted, you know, again, here and there we would get notifications that we had more documents that needed to be signed. I don't even know what it all is. There was just so much paperwork. But luckily we were able to sign a lot of it electronically. So for us, the bank had a website where you can log in and your documents were there that needed to be signed, and you just click and, you know, draw your signature, and that was it. It was really fast and easy. All the documents are also there if I want to print anything out or anything like that. So, you know, I have them available for the future. So that was easy. And like I said, we just had documents kind of all the way through to sign. But when I say hurry up and wait, I mean, it's like, okay, hurry up. Let's get an offer in. Let's, you know, make sure we have all our ducks in a row, sign all the paperwork that needs to be done for the offer, and then wait for your offer to be accepted. And then after your offer is accepted, it's just like wait till closing. So again, paperwork kind of throughout the process as far as waiting for closing. Other than that, that's kind of it. Like you provide a lot of information. Like, be prepared for them to look again at your W-2s, at your bank statements, all the things. The other thing is, when you have an offer that's accepted, or even if you're still looking and you know you're going to want to buy something, don't make any large purchases on credit. Don't apply for new credit. Don't take large sums of money out of your bank accounts, things like that, because all of that could affect your approval, your closing, things like that. That was one tip that we were given by the bank. Don't do any of that stuff until after closing, because it could affect the outcome. And then it came time for us to close. So again, we closed on July 10th, 2024, and the process for us was really easy. So on closing day, we met the realtor at the house. We did a final walkthrough, basically just to make sure like there wasn't any major damage caused by anything, weather or whatever. You know, just to make sure everything was still looking good with the house, which it was, obviously. And then we went to the attorney's office, the title attorney, I guess. So we went with our realtor, came with us, and then the attorney, and we just had to sign a ton of documents. So we signed everything. The seller was there as well in a separate room. There were a couple things she needed to sign as well. And then after we signed everything, we gave the check, and then we got the keys. So the most, like, probably one of the most surprising things to me in the whole process was, as far as closing costs, we didn't know what our exact amount for closing costs was until literally the day before. So we, you know, of course had a very good estimate, but I guess just between the paperwork and final details and all of that, we didn't know until the day before. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, something that I just kind of didn't think about, because I knew the closing was getting closer and closer, and of course, you know, I knew when the date was, but something that I just kind of let slip by was that the money that I needed to have in my bank account for closing, obviously, if you need to do any transfers from your savings account, if you need to deposit a large check or cash or whatever into your savings account or your checking account, so that you have enough money to pay for the closing, just make sure you do that like as soon as possible. Don't wait till a couple days before closing, because if that money doesn't clear in time, you don't have money to pay for your closing. So our closing, so our house, the purchase price was $243,000, and our closing costs were $23,300 and change. $23,000. So part of that is the down payment. I believe we put 5% down, or 3%. I think 5%. 5% down, and then the other half is literally all the fees. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in fees. Attorney fees, document fees, just all the fees. All the fees. So be prepared. $23,000, we had to get a certified check from the bank for that amount of money. So that was obviously a huge amount of money. So you will need way more money over and above just your closing costs. Let me back up a little. When our offer was accepted, we immediately needed to get the inspector back on the line, schedule the inspection. I believe we had 10 days from the day our offer was accepted to have the house inspected and decide whether we really wanted it or not based on the inspection report. So you are on kind of a tight time frame. So again, if you put an offer in, you're hoping for it to be accepted. I mean, I would hope so if you're putting an offer on a home. Have inspection companies in mind already, because you do have a tight timeline. Your realtor should also be able to suggest inspection companies or inspectors or whatever who can come out and do that for you. So we got the inspection, we received the report back, we of course reviewed that, decided we would go ahead with the sale, and then we needed to have an appraisal done. So this was a requirement with the bank, because if the house didn't appraise for enough, then they're not going to loan us the money, right? So the appraisal process was easy. I just needed to pay for that. I believe it was $600, and the bank handled everything else. So I made a payment online. They called it a good faith deposit. They had their appraisers, whoever it was, they scheduled it. The appraiser went out. I had no idea when it was or anything. The only thing was I paid for it, and then I received a report back afterwards. Okay, so before the appraisal was done, as soon as our offer was accepted, we were expected to put a small little down payment down. As soon as our offer was accepted, okay, write us this check. It was a percentage of the total cost of the home. So for us, our deposit was, I believe, $2,650. So again, more money you need to come up with. So if you're going to put an offer in on a house and it's accepted, be prepared to have a few $1,000s there to give away. So offer accepted, pay a deposit, write a check, pay us a deposit. It's basically just kind of saying, okay, you're going to go through with the purchase of this house and blah, blah, blah. Pay the deposit. Then get the inspector. Our inspection was, I believe, $700 or $750. I know I said for the previous house it was around $300. I could be completely wrong with these numbers, but at least with the past number, I believe it was cheaper because at first we went through, my father-in-law knew the inspector or something. I don't know. The numbers are a little fuzzy for me, but for this go around, I believe it was $700 or $750. Okay, so offer accepted, pay your deposit, get your inspection done. After your inspection is done, you'll get the report, you'll review it, decide if you really want to go through with it, let your realtor know, and then from there, pay for the appraisal. The bank will handle the appraisal. Once the appraisal is done, then you're just kind of waiting until closing and signing any documents necessary as they come through. So that was the process, you guys. I know that was a super kind of convoluted, unorganized way of talking about it, but that is my brain. So I guess that's it. Now I did film a walkthrough of the house, so that will be coming. That may even be up before this video. We'll see. I don't know which order I'm going to post them in, but that's coming. I'm also filming some of the renovations I'm doing. I'm not doing anything crazy by any means, but I started in the kitchen, so the cabinets, I did start painting them, and I am filming that process. So all that to say, there will be videos coming about updates and changes to the house, so stay tuned for that if you're interested. But if you have any questions about, our experience, anything like that, let me know below. I will answer them to the best of my ability. Again, this was our very first experience, so I'm not going to know everything. I also want to say we didn't look into any kind of like incentives for us or anything like that as first-time home buyers. I know there's some type of first-time home buyer credit or something. Again, I didn't look into that. We are in sort of a unique situation because the homes that we have lived in up until now, my father-in-law owns, and my husband's name is actually on one of them as like partial owner or something. So I guess he's not technically a first-time homeowner. I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation, like I said, but we didn't look into any of that. So I unfortunately don't have any advice about that, but of course your realtor should. So like I said, if you have questions, let me know below, but I hope you enjoyed this video. It did end up being a little bit longer. And yeah, just look out for the renovation videos in addition to all the cash videos. And thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. I love you. I'll see you next time. Bye.